Hey everybody, this is lesson 3.0, all about polynomial operations. We wanted to go through this with you, show you how to perform addition, subtraction, and multiplication with polynomials. Our goals for today are to be able to add and subtract polynomials. We also want to be able to distribute a monomial to a polynomial and to be able to multiply polynomials. Now that might have sounded like a lot of words that you don't know. So here's some important vocab that you need to be sure you understand and can use these terms appropriately. So first of all, what is a polynomial? It's an expression that contains variables of any integer degree. So you can have an x squared, you can have an x to the 0, you can have an x to the 5th. You cannot have an x to the 1/2, or you cannot have like a 1 over x. So a polynomial is just an expression that has variables, x's, y's, whatever, to different powers. A monomial is a type of polynomial with only one term, meaning there's no adding and subtracting. So it's just 4x, 2x squared, 3x to the 5th, x to the 7th, etc. A binomial would be two terms that are being added or subtracted together. So 2x plus 5 is a polynomial. 3x squared plus 9x minus 7 is a polynomial. 17x to the 89th plus 4x is a binomial. A trinomial then is three terms. So 2x squared plus 5x plus 9. And you can kind of see it keeps going. Anything, we only have terms for monomial, binomial, and trinomial. From there on out, it's just a polynomial. A constant is a specific type of term that has no variable. So it's just a number by itself. So 5, 7, 13, etc. A coefficient is the number that is in front of the variable. So the 2 in 2x, the 7 in 7x squared. Those are coefficients. The most important part of this is that it is the same variable to the same power is a like term. Okay? You can only add or subtract like terms, and so we need to know that it has to be the same power to the same the same variable to the same power. So x squared can only be added to another x squared. You cannot add an x to an x squared because they don't have the same power. You cannot add an x squared to a y squared because they're not the same variable. So like terms is an important vocabulary term for you to understand exactly what that means. Okay, so you've got these all laid out here. This is definitely something I would write down in your notes so you can refer back to it. But it's very important to know what these words mean because we will be using them throughout this unit as well as in future units. And you need to know what we're talking about when we say them. To add or subtract polynomials, you simply combine like terms by adding or subtracting the coefficients. That is the most important part here. The coefficients are what you are adding or subtracting. You are doing nothing with the exponents, okay? So if I look at this first one here, I'm subtracting all of these second ones from all of the first ones, and I'm just going to combine my like terms. So I'm going to take 3x squared minus x squared, which is 2x squared. I'm going to take negative 2x minus 4x, which is negative 6x. I'm going to take 3 minus negative 2, which is 5. The result is my new polynomial. So 2x squared minus 6x plus 5 is my expression, okay? So again, you're just combining like terms, you're adding or subtracting the coefficients. Just be careful about your signs, especially when you're subtracting. You have to subtract every piece in that second parenthesis. Adding is even easier. Again, you're just adding the coefficients. So 2a third plus 1a to the third is 3a to the third. 5a plus negative 3a is 2a. And negative 7 plus 2 is negative 5. Done. Now, some people will shape their terms like I just did. I underlined, circled, squared so that you know which ones are like terms. Some people write them under each other or next to each other. Again, whatever makes the most sense for you is the process that you can use. Now, when we are multiplying, there's a couple different things that we need to know how to multiply. First of all, when we have a monomial, which remember is one term, we distribute that to everything that is inside the parentheses, and this time we are going to add the exponents. So when I multiply 2x times x squared, I get 2x to the third. When I multiply 2x times 7x, I get 14x squared. And when I multiply 2x by negative 9, I get negative 18x. So be really careful about the exponents here. When you're multiplying, you do add the exponents together. You also multiply any coefficients that are there. So looking at this next one, I'm going to multiply 5x squared by 2x squared, and I'm going to get 10x to the fourth. I'm going to multiply 5x squared by x, and I get 5x cubed. And 5x squared times negative 3 is negative 15x squared. Okay? Notice my signs stay exactly the same. It's plus and minus, just like it was in the parentheses. The only thing I'm doing is multiplying the coefficients and adding the exponents. Okay? Now that feeds into what we're doing next, which is multiplying binomials. And you may have heard of either of these methods. You are welcome to choose whichever one you want. I'll show you both, and then the choice is yours. So the first method we can use to multiply is called FOIL. And FOIL stands for first, outside, inside, and last. So when we're multiplying x plus 3 times x minus 5, we multiply the first two. X times x is x squared. Then we multiply the outsides. X times negative 5 is negative 5x. Then we multiply the insides. 3 times x is 3x. And we multiply the last. 3 times negative 5 is negative 15. There will most likely, almost always, be like terms that you have to combine. You can see that I have a negative 5x and a positive 3x. So I'm going to combine those and get a negative 2x. This is my multiplied binomials, okay? The other method you can use is called the box method, and you simply write your binomials on either side and multiply the pieces. So you can see it's very similar. You're going to end up with the same terms. X times x is x squared. X times 3 is 3x. X times negative 5 is negative 5x. And negative 5 times 3 is negative 15. And you always combine diagonally. So these two will be combined together. So we get x squared. Negative 5 and 3 is negative 2x minus 15. You can see we ended up with the same answer, just a different process to get there. FOIL is pretty easy, but it only works when you have two binomials. The box works for any multiplication. You can do it with a monomial, you can do it with binomials, you can do it with trinomials. It really works for any multiplication situation. So I personally tend to choose the box just because it works every time. But again, you are free to choose whichever one you prefer. Okay, we're going to do a couple more just for some practice. So if we look at this first one here, we're going to multiply this. So I'm going to set up my box for it. Notice I'm dividing it into 4 pieces because I have 4 pieces. So the x plus 2 goes on top, the 2x minus 1 goes on the side, and I'm going to multiply my pieces out. So 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times 2 is 4x. Negative 1 times x is negative 1x, and negative 1 times 2 is negative 2. Now I'm going to combine my like terms, and I get 2x squared plus 3x. Negative 1 and 4 is 3x minus 2. Done. Let's try the next one. 4x plus 3 times x minus 5. Again, I'm going to use the box. You are welcome to choose whatever method you prefer. This is my preference. And you can see you get pretty quick at it. It helps you kind of line up all your variables. You just multiply the pieces, and then I'm going to, of course, combine my like terms. So I get 4x squared minus 17x minus 15. And I'm done. I've multiplied all of that out, okay? So when multiplying two binomials, simply multiply all the pieces together, whether you choose to use FOIL or the box method, and then combine any like terms you might have. Now, what happens when we have a quantity squared? A lot of us wanted to square the pieces. That's not how this works. What this means is that you are multiplying x plus 4 times x plus 4. Now that should look familiar because that's exactly what we were just doing. We're multiplying two binomials. So we're going to have to multiply all of their pieces together, okay? So the answer to this is not x squared plus 16. You have to multiply it out to get all of the pieces, and you can see that it's actually x squared plus 8x plus 16. Okay, so it's very important. Squaring a quantity does not mean you just multiply the two pieces together. The second one here is not going to be 4x squared minus 1. Okay, we have to multiply the quantity 2x minus 1 times the quantity 2x minus 1 and multiply all of that out and get all of the pieces that it's equal to. So here we end up with 4x squared minus 4x plus 1. Okay, be really careful when you're doing this. Make sure that you are multiplying it out completely, especially when you are squaring. So this has been another production of Con Alonso Inc., all about multiplying, adding, and subtracting polynomials. Hopefully you have a good understanding of these topics and can move on with your work, or you can come to class with some questions for us. Have a fantastic